bubble and corruption. Home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them, them is the real problem. They're doing what they want, so let me vote of them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Paria, King John, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain out. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out.
Rowley, acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears. They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing what they want, so let me vote out them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Paria, King John, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out.
Young minister of everything, he is the king of lying. Don't talk about the buck Imbert, bumping up big gum like an old goat.
Let's talk too much.
Don't talk about Al-Rawi, he lacking integrity. 23 million in rent and we can't get off cent. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Paria, King John, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. Well, this is your Indian political warrior, massive go sign. Take it in your liver.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out. For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out.
PNM is the stalwarts of mafia, bubble and corruption. Home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them, them is the real problem. They're doing what they want, so let me vote of them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Paria, King John, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, PNM.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out.
Rowley, acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears. They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing what they want, so let me vote out them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM.
For them out they go Martin West. For them out they go Martin East. For them out San Fernando West. St. Anne's West. For Spain North. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out.
Stark young minister of everything. He is the king of lying. Don't talk about the buck inverted, pumping up big gum like an old goat. PNM is the stalwarts of mafia, bubble and corruption. Home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them, them is the real problem. They're doing me what they want, so let me vote of them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM.
For them out they go Martin West. For them out they go Martin East. For them out San Fernando West. St. Anne's West. For Spain North. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out.
Rowley acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears. They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing we what they want, so let me vote of them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Paria, King John, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM.
For them out they go Martin West. For them out they go Martin East. For them out San Fernando West. St. Anne's West. For Spain North. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out.
Stark young minister of everything. He is the king of lying. Don't talk about the buck inverted, pumping up big gum like an old goat.
Let's talk too much.
Don't talk about Al-Rawi, he lacking integrity. 23 million in rent and we can't get off cent. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Paria, King John, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. Well, this is your Indian political warrior, massive go sign. Take it in your liver.
For them out they go Martin West. For them out they go Martin East. For them out San Fernando West. St. Anne's West. For Spain North. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out. For them out.
Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to all and sundry. Maybe it is because I'm anticipating tomorrow night. You see, tomorrow night is my day off. But like the typical industrious citizen and patriot, I take no solace. I feel no significance.
This was no act of God. Or
boy.
Accident. All the money that has been expended
I feel no
on the process
significance.
so far,
Benefit.
much more is almost certain to be spent before the families will see a single dime or dollar in compensation. It will not sit well with everybody. There may be those who will be disappointed. There may be those who will be outraged. And there may be those who will wish to challenge it. All they can do is to give it to everybody.
But as I was saying, I take no solace in, of course, having to take a sabbatal. But of course, as I've always said, and it is well established, it is a hackneyed saying, it's a well beaten path, it is almost pedestrian, that all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, and all play and no work make Jack a mere toy, and therefore you have to balance it. So that is why tomorrow night is my day off. But having said that, there are several things that have happened over the last 24 hours to continue, of course, to question any typical Trinbagonian whether we are living in a real place, whether we are in a fantasy, whether we are in some kind of a scenario that can only be considered to be some kind of force, some kind of illusion, some kind of a situation that can only be described as unreal in a sci-fi movie. The amount of decadence, the amount of stupidity, the amount of maladministration, the amount of incompetence, the amount of dotishness, the amount of hollow individuals, selves in the highest echelons in the decision-making processes in the country, and claiming to be defended by the Constitution and the various laws that, of course, give credence to the particular office. I say to you, when we look at the office of Prime Minister, when we look at the office of Minister of National Security, when we look at the office of President, yes, when we look at the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives, when we look at a person who occupies the office of the Senate presidency, when we look at the Ministry of, or the Minister of Social Development, when we look at the Minister of Community Development, when we look at the Minister of Education, when we look at the Attorney General, when we look at the Minister of Agriculture, when we look at the Minister of Local Government, when we look at, indeed, we wonder and we wonder, the Minister of Energy and Energy-Based Industries, Stuart Small Pin, they say, Young. I don't know why they call him that, but I know he's a moron. I know that he's a moron. So it is clear that we are in a state of phantomism. It cannot be that this is real. It cannot be that we have a real Trinbago having regard to the decadence and the bungling and the destruction and the incompetence and the misappropriation of money, misappropriation of resources, misappropriation of policies and programs, misappropriation of being able to deliver, and we can go on and on. Let me say formally a pleasant good night to all and sundry, east, west, north, south, central, our friends in Tobago and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web. A pleasant good day to you. This is, yes, the Corridor Transformation, your host, Lennox Smith. And I warn those people along the east-west corridor, beginning with Diego Martin West. You must now become conscious and become conscientious of yourself. You must remember and recollect when you were turning from a teenager to an adolescent, and you see that the breast is growing, and that, of course, you are collecting now pubic hair. Let's go straight, of course, to the calls before we continue. pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. It's a good night. Welcome to the corridor. Hey. You could speak up a little louder. Speak up a little louder. Yeah. I'm hearing you now. Yes. Boy, get you kind of. Let me see. Let me see if I can get you the louder, boy. No, you're coming across very faint. Come across very faint. Call me back because I'm not getting you. We are not doing justice to your contribution. So call me back. I'll have to make some adjustments. All right. Sorry about that. Yes, indeed. So I was making the point. I was making the point that the level of incompetence and impotence that is purporting to be government and governance in this country is amazing, unprecedented, and frankly unexpected in a country such as Trinidad and Tobago that has, of course, created so many good things, not only for the region and for our homeland and for our sanity and having regard to our melting pot socio-economic realities and the fact that we have been able, of course, to exist in relative peace and quiet among various strains from different parts of the globe. Yes, in our cosmopolitan Trinidad and Tobago, recognizing our multi-ethnicity, our multi-culturalism, our multi, of course, religious strains, and our multi, even attitudes. But the fact of the matter is that that is not enough. We must have a governance system that is immune to the kind of shenanigans that Rowley and they have reduced it to in such an environment where people come from different parts of the world. Like, for example, New York, where people come to visit from all parts of the world, but they also live there as well. And what you see is a governance structure that is truly democratic and sensitive to the needs of the people, with a high degree of transparency, accountability, and a deep sense of what is required to generate a quality of life and standard of living all aspire to achieve. It is against that background this melting pot has failed. This melting pot experience has failed because what you have is a government that believes it can dominate and hold on to power by exploiting and then, of course, creating a 1% who they will give, of course, the largest of the state, if there is one, or the largest amount of the economic pie in the country, a small group, and as a consequence, have in disarray, have in total bedlam the larger part of the society, those belonging to the middle class and the working class. I say to you that is untenable. I say to you that it is not viable. I say to you that it is not sustainable. And at the end of the day, and in a common sense application, as we see history repeated with such scenarios, somebody always getting hurt, killed even, because you have a group of individuals who are so biased, who are so self-centered, who are so self-serving, or who want to dominate power that they lose all sense of rationality, common sense, and not only patriotism, but a sense of altruism, and therefore their ability to appreciate their fellow man, their ability, of course, to be sensitive to the downtrodden, their ability to recognize that they have a fair share based on the system. And why would you want more than your fair share as they continue to gourmandize, as they continue to display avarice that clearly cannot be sustained? And that is what is despicable as far as the Rowley administration and the PNM is concerned, to look at Balize House and have a clear and pictorial, if you want to call it that, but a cerebral or intellectual analysis as to where our monies has gone and why it is that they are living in voluptuous circumstance. Whites, of course, there are people who today did not have a meal, or they couldn't have 2 meals so far. That is what is happening, and we must, of course, resist that. And the only thing to do to get rid of that is to that disparity, not discrepancy, that disparity, that unequal circumstance. All right, let's go and see. Let me get back to that call and see what is happening in that with that call. All right, let's go. Let's see now. Let's see what's happening. I'm hearing myself, that person really listening, but of course they should be attending to your phone. Listen to your phone when you get in. All right, please. I'll have to do something about, I'm getting 2 signals on 2 screens in front of me, so I need to be able to focus on one so that I get the calls and the audio that is required so that we can share. Let's go again. Wow. All right, let's go with this one now. Yes. Right, let's see now. Let's see now. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Welcome. Pleasant good night.
Yeah.
Right, good. Yes.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
It's
what I was saying is, I know the California.
Uh-huh.
The name of the Calypso, I can't remember. No, that is the great before stove.
The what? The name of the Calypso? What's the name of the Calypso? Repeat it.
Calypso, that's the late great before.
Go ahead.
Late great before stove.
Oh, the first, so yes. Oh, last time I did say it, yes.
Right.
The late great the first, so that's right, yes. Thank you very much for that quiz belated quiz answer belated. Yeah.
Huh?
Repeat what you
Yeah,
said.
you know the name of the song?
Pardon me? Hello?
I want to get the name of the Calypso. The name of the Calypso.
Oh, the name of the
I
Calypso.
want to get the name of the Calypso.
A palace something.
Yes.
All right, I'll call it out for you. I'll call it out for you. Right? I'll call it. The name of the first calypso he's asking.
All right.
All right, yeah. So just listen. I'll give it to you. I'll give it, and therefore, of course, others can share. I think it was something about a palace. Something about a palace. Let me get it one time, because I don't like to keep people waiting for information. Information is value. Information is money. Information, of course, is the thing that makes the world go round. Let's see. Where is it? Let me see. Yes, indeed. Yeah, the first. So yeah. So that's the name of the calypso. In a palace state of mind. In a palace state of mind. Maybe we should play it now. A palace state of mind. Yes, indeed. By the first. So thank you very much, caller, for answering to that quiz that I provided yesterday. But just for that, let's get a little two stanza of that particular calypso. I mean, it's wonderful. Yes, indeed. A palace state of mind.
I went to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in August 2003 as a Minister of Government in Trinidad and Tobago, a PNM Minister, and told him that there was bid rigging taking place in Udicott.
1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion.
Patrick, could I be like you?
Yes,
Should I fool the people too?
yes,
You see, all these years I singing calypso, I singing the truth. Still can't win the ground. They just keep me in town. Can't buy my own house, no. Look at renting still. But just like you, is a palace I want to build. Maybe I have to be a politician in TNT. Cause calypso money, there will no palace for me. I want a palace just like yours, with about 300 doors. Calypso can give me that. I'm telling you flat. One fish for 20,000. I want about 10 dozen. Diplomatic center too. I dream to be fit like you. Patrick, could we start building soon?
yes,
Could we start in the month of June?
yes,
Did you take land from the poor?
yes,
Will they still vote you for sure?
yes.
Oh no.
1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 1 billion,
Who said?
2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion.
Is it true your eyes very long?
Yes,
Did you spend money to the ground?
yes,
I hear the master bedroom alone. Patrick will blow me away. The figures they make known. Look, I don't know what to say. They say the dining area for sure cost about 6 million. The executive suite and more is a money squandalization. So much people in poverty. Some have nowhere to sleep nightly. Still you find time to build a palace. Well, I want to build one for me. I want a palace just like yours, with about 300 doors. Calypso can give me that. I'm telling you flat. 3 million for trains alone. How much for the time?
Much
yes,
more is
indeed.
almost certain to be spent before the families will see a single
Yes,
dime
indeed. Yes,
or
indeed.
dollar
Yes,
in
indeed. Of
compensation.
course,
It
it
will not
appears that what goes around comes around. It appears that we are in a state where the time has stood still. As far as the profligacy, the waste, the corruption, nepotism, cronyism, and of course misbehavior in public office, as far as the PNM as a criminal enterprise that it has morphed into, but worse under Rowley, the most hated man in the country and the most hated prime minister forever. Yes, indeed. There could be no one more hated in Trinidad and Tobago than this man. This corrupt man, this criminal, this rapist, this pedophile. I want to come in our faces as if he's some prime minister when he should be, of course, hanging his head in shame and putting some kind of skirt over his head to hide our face only a mother would love. Yes, indeed. You have to tell them as it is. Yet, lest they take us continuously for granted, and the people are blasted fed up of the nonsense that is being purported to be government and governance, and they only put in their poisonous tentacles into all of the institutions to try to stay in office. You will not succeed, Rowley. You will not. You cannot. We must make Trinidad once again a real place. And that level of travesty, that level of evil, must be subjected to a high degree of exorcism. I mean, get rid. There must be a catharsis, a cleansing of Trinidad and Tobago. And it starts with us. It starts with us. It starts with us, people. Let's go straight, of course, let's go straight to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night.
Hey, brother, good night.
Good night to you, man. Yeah, you're clear.
You hear me? Good night.
Yes. Loud and clear.
Nice.
Yes.
Man, this country reach point now. Yeah, this country reach a point now.
You ask a question? What's
That
question?
old people who 70 something want to take up and leave. I said, just imagine this country reach a point now it cannot take care of its elders.
Oh, yes,
That
yes,
are
yes,
70
yes.
years something want to pack up
And
and
God,
leave this country
fly out. Fly
because
out.
she can't live in peace.
Yeah.
And she living with a disabled child. So the police who is do patrols, they couldn't realize that that house is an old lady and a disabled person. We need to take care of that property. We need to patrol in that spot better. We need to make sure that, because she said one of them was talking Spanish. So they can't hold a press conference and come on TV now. Well, don't offer notice to journalists, and come and send a message to the Venezuelan immigrants here and say, listen, we are not taking crime from you all. We are not taking crime from you. Whether you bounce up a friend who is at Trinidad and who are allowing you to be in crime, say, listen, we are not taking crime in this country from you all. And talk done. But they can come and talk about all kind of things where he let Delcy come in here and this one from Dubai flying there and up to now we can't get nothing from Dubai, from nothing from. I tell you, I wish this country was getting annexed from Venezuela now. I willing to fight for this country now. And throw Rowley first in the fire. I'm telling you, because it hurt my heart. Look at 4-year-old child get grades from about how long ago children we getting shoot from gang activities. They not the first time. In a little country with 1.3 with 9,000 police, we can get a hand with gang violence. The master Watson.
You're sure right. The kind of expenditure, yes, but the kind of expenditure alone that has been expended over the last 8 years on crime alone, you really, the maths is not mathsing. Of course, there has been some inquiries as to what is happening with the ground report on YouTube and in the social media. Well, there is some technical issues that are being ironed out. While, of course, we had our fair share here on the corridor. You remember that a couple weeks ago. And, of course, we are still having it in terms of the internet power. But, of course, at least we are limping along, so to speak, every night. And as I said earlier, tomorrow night, of course, is my night off. But that being as it may, let us get back, of course, to the issues of the day. And let me, of course, introduce you now to the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry, Mr. Lynch, into, of course, the Paria tragedy where those 5 divers died. And what he had to say was very, very, very instructive, as it was, of course, emotional, because he asked for compensation, and he said, oh gosh, the amount of money spent, $15 million on this inquiry, and then families of those victims didn't get a cent as yet. And he asked out of his portfolio, not within his terms of reference, but he called upon the Rowley administration. And that immediately reminded me of when Kamala Prasad Bisesa, recognizing that police officers, under, of course, the strain and the pressures and the marauding gangs and the criminals and those who are prepared to kill, maim, and, of course, dispossess people of their valuables. She said, and took a cabinet decision. That's all it takes to offer to the bereaved families of those persons who would be putting their lives and limb on the line, even though they are being paid by the state as police officers and law enforcement agents, $1 million. And it materialized. $1 million. It so happened, I think two persons would have benefited from that. 2 families would have benefited from that. 2 families without a father or a breadwinner would have benefited from that. You know, when Rowley come in and a similar situation took place, this man is questioning and saying that he's looking for process and procedure. But that's scoundrel. He talk about procedure when he claiming to be of what? The best salesman for Trinidad, and go to Australia and purchase 2 boats, $1 billion, and then it turned out to be much cheaper. That's scoundrel. Ain't say anything. When Al-Rawi and Stuart Young recuse themselves for their families to get handsome benefits by way of contracts, whether it be for buildings or whether it be for searching for money to buttress or support the cabinet or the government's budgetary requirements and of course obligations. Yes, he didn't say anything. When Camille Robinson Regis took out money from a particular bank and dropped it in the next bank, but the bank that she took it from suddenly gave back the money. Some kind of devilish miracle. He didn't say nothing. And he went as far, just as how he did with Al-Rawi, to say that he taken out the money out of First Citizen Bank because he wasn't concerned that his cabinet minister, a senior minister at that, has either engaged potentially in money laundering or corruption in terms of can't determine where they get the money from. He ain't concerned about that. He turn and say that he going to take out his money from First Citizen Bank because First Citizen Bank exposed the information that they would have had about Camille Robinson Regis. So he ain't concerned about where she got the money from. He concerned that they didn't keep her secret a secret. And it's not for the first time. We saw him when, of course, Al-Rawi disowned his own children. Up to now, he has not told us that it's his children that was holding those guns somewhere in Trinidad on some range. But it was Rowley who come out and say that he don't want the army to protect him because they went and put those children's picture on social media. And it turned out that it was the children, under the enthusiasm that children would have for being in a situation like that to show off with their friends, not knowing the danger that they would have put their parents in or themselves. But the fact of the matter is the conduct of Rowley. He was prepared, of course, to dismiss, to abandon the army because he said he don't want them kind of people to protect he, on whom he had to protect, as if anybody cares. Why not Rowley take a chain and probably a chainsaw too. Tie it round your neck and make sure that you have a Yale lock and lock it. Take a pirogue with, of course, an engine block connected to the chain and go in the Gulf of Paria and do us a favor. Do us a blasted favor. Do us a favor, Rowley. You are too despicable, you're too evil, you're too wicked, you're too dangerous. And I have a duty and responsibility to, of course, expose and to regurgitate and to remind, so that when we go to the polls on whether the 25th or before, I talk about 2025, I'm talking about, we must do our duty and get rid of them in spite of their efforts to try to commit a coup, which is, of course, staying in office by generating the mediocrity that we see all over the place. The DNA of the PNM, only incompetence, impotence, all over the place. And then, of course, they grandstand and grand charge and pretended that they know and that they are doing a service to the population. At that time, all of them are a bunch of blasted thieves. Thieves. Miscreants and kleptocrats. But let us go straight, of course. I thought it was a good warm-up to hear Mr. Lynch, as he, of course, what he had to say. And all of it will fall on deaf ears. And if they respond, it's because it must have some political benefit to them. It must improve their electability. Who runs a government like that? Who runs a government like that? And the population always in some kind of quandary, always in wonderland, always expecting the worst. It's the first time in any country, I'm sure, where a government comes into office with such a large amount of resources, not a mandate. The mandate is minuscule. Kamala could have been there as well. It's only 2318 in 2015. And in 2020, he was further reduced. 2219. So, the largest or the monolithic I am talking about is the fact that they came into government meeting after Kamala Prasad Bisasa and the UNC demitted office, $5 billion in the Heritage and Civilization Fund and counting. Over 10 billion US are talking about in reserves. You ask these nincompoop or the Minister of Finance in particular, or even Rowley, because he ought to know, what is the situation? How could you, on the one hand, like Stuart Young has done, that total moron, both he and Rowley boasting that they went to Texas and they negotiated gas. Before he came into government, he negotiated with Sandals. He gave us all of the delusionary utterances, projections, and salubrious to him. Magnificent things that they would have done, and how much money they brought into the country. And if they weren't there, those monies would not have come. And up to now, the people can't see the money. And we have to question. And we constantly question. Let me just get this out of the way. Let me just get this out. Right, good. Pleasant good night. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night.
Good night.
Good night to you. Yes.
Good. Ahí estoy viendo que todo negotiate draft prices. Price
Say
all
that.
you a bunch of them.
I hear you, good boy. Say it over again.
Negotiate program that they will not even they negotiate all them gas price.
Yeah.
You know, again, no more. They gone. They flee. They go out of the country.
Yeah. Migration
Right?
out of the
They
country.
no longer doing business in Trinidad.
That's right.
Trinidad is not feasible at all to do any business.
You're so
Right,
right.
Lennox?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud and clear, yes. Loud and clear, yes.
Right. And listen, I want to ask you something about the Flint report, right?
Yeah.
This Flint report.
Yeah.
I want to know if you can give.
Well, yeah, I don't think that will
Well,
be difficult.
you had access to how? To the Freedom of Information?
Yeah, you can do it. But I think he said when he was making this
Because somebody saying nobody can do that.
Of course we can. That is public money, man. That's public money. And he was, whether temporary or otherwise, a public officer. He was paid by the Treasury of Trinidad and Tobago, our money.
Right. Because I know Mr. Lynch get the lion's share, but the other feeding frenzy lawyers and them that was there to the PNM, they collect a good bit of money too. Peterson and company, I believe, was there.
He did attempt without details to give us some, let's say, a breakdown, but in large chunks, as opposed to microscopically. See? In large chunks. That's what he did. But he said that it wasn't for him to disclose. It should be the government. But you know, this government is a clandestine one. That had a ping donkey, you wouldn't see.
Yeah, well, this government love feeding frenzies. That's what that is. You understand? They set up these inquiries to come and all the report they will shelve it. They shelve every report, put it on in some cupboard. Yeah, where old mother Ahmad will have it. They will put it there. But I'm waiting to see what the president will do as the prime minister, because you can shelve out $15.5 million of taxpayer money and sit down on something like you have a chicken, sitting on an egg. You have to bring it before the public. That is taxpayer money spending. The travesty of this entire thing in Lennox is that the four diverse family got nothing out of it in the end.
Nothing. I mean, that
and Lynch was saying, join some recognition to that.
Yeah. That in itself is a tragedy. That in
Lynch was
itself.
doing some references.
What kind of beast running this government by?
He was saying, they're wicked Lennox. They were feeling sorry for Malcolm Jones. You know, they were feeling sorry for when he was suffering. They gave him everything that he needed. They dropped case against him and all of that. But other people who die under this, what you say, wicked government by the what's the murderous act that they did, they murder, keeping 4 people in a pipeline for how much days and they suffocate and dead. My goodness, that is the wickedest thing ever. And Lynch saying that they should not do an outer court settlement. We don't want an outer court settlement. They had to pay for that. And if it's anything criminal matter to take place against this man called George. Because he was one of the ringleaders and next hierarchy in Petrotrin. That's they ain't sending nobody there to rescue these people and leaving them there. And these men was alive for days, you know.
Yeah.
This is a real Mickey Mouse country, no man. I hope Prakash Ramada and I hope Anand Ramlogan and Ramesh Maharaj join up together to litigate this matter against the state. I don't care who in government, but the PNM government is the one responsible for this thing. If the government change hands, so be it. The case will go on against the UNC if they come into power. But I guess they wouldn't see it fit to carry on with this matter and they would push it, so that the people will get some justice in the end. Because the PNM, them is all about fighting it down to the last breath. You see what they do, Jawala, and you see what they do with other people who are victimized in this country. Right? Anytime you have any matter against them, they are appealing it.
Yeah.
They play monopoly with taxpayer money, right? And that is the gist of this entire thing. But I hear they talking to the other station about oil reaching what zero at one stage of the pandemic. But oil reach at that stage because people ain't traveling, people ain't taking car, people ain't taking plane, where they going for oil remain a lot. So the companies shelve it, and it only went for one day. And we don't are telling people that was West Texas Intermediate Oil. We did trade in Brent crude. Right? Trinidad nothing to do with that. They saying because of one day how much days it reached the zero, Trinidad suffer for that. Man, the PNM can pull wool over them people like, but they wouldn't talk about how much money Imbud mismanaging the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, you know, over a period of time. He lost millions, and nobody never talk about that. But the stupidness for oil, them talking about that, like if that is the cause of Trinidad bankruptcy and downturning the economy today. It's mismanagement. The PNM has mismanaged and destroyed the economy of this country, and they continue to do it with a brass face and attacking the people of this country and putting all sorts of taxes on and implementing all sorts of hardship on them. But anyway, Lennox, we'll leave it at another day. Have a good day.
Yes, my friend. Yes, my friend. Enjoy always your contribution. He brought a very salient point before we go to Mr. Lynch. He brought a very salient point that there really no argument with respect to oil going to $1 during COVID. That was expected, but of course, what Dr. Rowley and they did was to use it as an opportunity to generate slush fund and to pay off as far as they could those persons who they were owing VAT. That is what they did. Let me tell you something. They cannot account for the $22 billion that was allocated to them through, of course, the dipping into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, among other loans and, of course, grants that they would have gotten. And what they did with the money, why we could say so with a high degree of certainty is because they failed to tell us Dr. Rowley reached about 2 or 3 billion and he cut it off. And then they have the audacity and the temerity, the gall and the effrontery to tell us things that is par for the course, things that you would normally be budgeted for every year. The man bringing the budgetary allocation for the dispossessed and the indigent in the Ministry of Social Development, you know. The man said, in addition to that, and including the regular budgetary allocation into his calculation, saying he accounting financially for what they spent. So, in other words, we know that he didn't touch that money yet, the 22 fresh, different $1 billion that they would have gotten as a consequence of the parliament and agreeing, because the opposition couldn't appear to be insensitive, couldn't appear to be inhumane, couldn't appear to be, even though they might have had their reservations and their skepticism and their probably well-placed notion that Rowley and they have some scheme up their core, and that is what happened. They take the money and spend it on paying VAT that they were owing before COVID. That's what they did. And then give for people 5-page form to fill out. After they say that come for the money, when you go or when you look at the rollout of metropolitan countries that would have been giving, of course, some kind of grant to their citizens, they found an easy way. Some people had food cards, some people had security cards, and they would just send the money, the additional money there. But in Trinidad and Tobago, every adult that doesn't have, of course, a connection to the Social Security Ministry. So what you do? But every blasted adult have an ID card. So all you had to do was to dig or go into the database of the EBC and send a check to everybody. But no, They give you some difficulty to fill out. Just as how they stole poor people mattress money. In the case of the mattress money, they tell the poor old people, senior citizens who would have not trust the bank and store their money in their mattress, and only to tell us that the money is not legal tender because they want to thief the people's mattress money and then subject them to, of course, an intimidation test, telling them that if you can't tell me where the money gone or where you get the money, you could get a jail. So a lot of the poor people who would have over many years accumulated the money take the losses rather than going through that. Because at the end of it all, why said they were reluctant to tell us how much money was not collected or exchanged for polymer notes, those old monies, the cut notes. In other words, $500 million. $500 million they get just so. And started out by saying it's some kind of money laundering, hogwash. And we know it's hogwash. But these fellas are criminals. They are evil, they are diabolical, that they are wicked, that they are dangerous, and they are the existential threat to the state called Trinidad and Tobago. All of them. Existential threat to the state of Trinidad and Tobago. The Rowley, and of course, mafia gang. They are. So when they talk about a barrel of oil was $1, I see it differently. Why the hell didn't we have the oil refinery operating? So in that time, when of course prices were so low, you could have bought as much barrel of oil as you could and then store it all over the place so that you could get the benefits when coming out of COVID, because COVID would have ended just as how they anticipated that the war and Russia will end. And sharpening up the troops and telling us that they get a largesse of $8 billion just so because they didn't improve or increase productivity was because of the rise in a barrel of oil, because of the war between Ukraine and Russia. And then, of course, he is, of course, beating his chest that we get that largesse now and pretending as though he wants, of course, some kind of discourse as to how to spend the money, when in fact, if the blasted oil refinery was operating, we would have been bidding. They would have found it very difficult to implement property tax because we would have been bidding. They would have found it very difficult to say that we do not have foreign exchange for small businesses and micro businesses. And it would have been difficult for the banks to slash in half the allocation of foreign exchange on people's credit card. Yeah. It's the same dotishness and asinine talk that Young brought up when he started to talk about they were planning for when the Ukraine war finished. And he's so stupid, he talking about 2017 was the genesis of that plan. He talking recently in the parliament on Tuesday, God, the genesis of the Ukraine war must finish, started in 2017. That buffoon, that ass, whole ass. Just imagine that. The war between Ukraine, 6 months, 8 months, he's telling us that they had a plan for when the Ukraine war finished so that they could, of course, generate as much fertilizer as possible because the world will need it for agriculture. I mean, come on. What more announcements do we need? A good night. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
Pleasant good night to you, Lennox Smith, and everybody on the line.
Yes, indeed. To you as well, my friend.
Lennox Smith. Pleasant good night to you.
Yes.
Right. So Stuart Young finally revealed the visit from where's the person name?
Delcy
Delcy Rodriguez
Rodriguez,
or
the
whatever the
vice
person is of
president of
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Yeah, the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez.
Right, Lennox. My question is, who it is going to charge Rowley and them for lying and misleading the cabinet, parliament, and the whole public? How we get these people in front of a judge here now, because everything done out in the open, all the beans and spill on the table. When we hear these people letting them pay for the crimes now, that's what I want to hear. Because they came me far right, and the only way I see this way is going to end is a lot of bloodshed all over the place. But this right need to stop. So how we get these people and them behind bars for 100 years? That's what I want to know tonight. Electoral listening.
Well, that question was asked on the ground report already, and they asked me that, and I said it in all certain terms. It is the collective mass of people who recognize that the toxicity and the danger and the evil that is Rowley and this government, and therefore I am not advocating bullet, I'm advocating ballot, and the ballot must come whether the Privy Council insists or otherwise, as they did and intervene with respect to the local government. 2025 must come. I say 2025 must come. And I say, get ready, East-West Corridor, and you must start, of course, with Diego Martin West. This man is toxic. This man is putrid. This man is, of course, evil. This man is a total rapscallion and an evil that has descended and entrapped and, of course, on the people of Trinidad and Tobago and must be gotten rid of. But not by the bullet, by the ballot. And he must now make a jail after that. I'm certain of it. He and his entire cabinet must make a jail for what they have done, conspired to deprive the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the middle class and the working class in this country. And like that little toddler I spoke of some time ago, that has and seemed to have a fixation to go at a hot cup of tea on a table where he or she could reach. And don't matter how mommy or daddy divert that child away from that cup of tea, hot cup of tea, steaming, the child's still going. That's Rowley and them. Until, of course, with some negligence by the parents, because all you had to do was to take away the damn cup of tea and put it on a higher shelf. But they leave it there. And the child eventually got it and pour it on themselves. Well, they know the history, the rest is history. You know what would have transpired. Pain, ache, agony, and all kinds of hospital and the relevant ward for children, pediatric ward they had to end up in and so on. That is Rowley and them. Their persistency is unfathomable to do what? To do evil, to do wickedness, to give us pain. I like to use, of course, the other analogy with respect, of course, to a dagger. Rowley's a kind of fella, and his entire cabinet will push a dagger in your heart and tell you it's good for you, take it. Don't dig nothing, you will survive. Don't dig nothing, you will survive. Well, whether you push it in or you pull it out, you're bound to dead. But they believe everybody's stupid and will succumb and, of course, accept that kind of hogwash, that kind of delusion. I tell you, all of them are suffering from a collective and individual manic depressive psychosis. They have a acute bout of non-reality. You know what I say? An acute bout of non-reality. And so, of course, I was talking about Short Young. And Rowley talking about because them person and them went to the boardrooms and they are what the salesman for Trinidad and all that, and they have brought back nothing. But will tell us that billions of dollars either was saved or came into the country when we know that, of course, there was not just no direct investment coming from outside of the country, no direct investment, no direct foreign investment, but there was a reversal. There was a migration of resources going out of the blasted country, which is nonsense. He is so damn puerile and infantile, a total and absolute. A fella that demonstrates that he is in, of course, cognitive, intellectual, and cerebral decline. They're going mad. Imagine he will tell us, he, Short Young, backed up by Rowley, will tell us, not only were they preparing, making excuse for the nonsense they did by not, of course, doing the right thing in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago at the right time, because this is what government and governance is about. But you supported Maduro no matter what. You even say and even make a statement that you are opposed to the human rights violation that Maduro exercises over in Venezuela. You didn't even question and express a concern and support the Americans because they have an indictment waiting for Maduro in America if you only step out with a 15 million US bounty on his head for exporting narcotics into the United States. All of that, and Rowley and I heard this buffoon, young Rowley's sidekick, telling us that they did well, and that since 2017 they had a program, and when, of course, the war between Ukraine and Russia finished, they will be in a position because they're seeking dragon oil or dragon gas in order, of course, to produce more ammonia and of course fertilizer, so that the rest of the world will need that for food. This ass, this dunderhead, this asinine specimen of inhumanity. Everything wrong with that piece of illogic. Everything wrong. Firstly, you say from 2017, it had no Ukraine war in 1917, and indeed in 2022. So they're trying to tell us that they're the ones who start the Ukraine and Russian war. But I told you so. That is how mad these people are. But let's examine what he said. The man ended up saying that, listen, we knew, and justifying some kind of news, international news interview that he got, a most despicable sight to watch. The man sounded more like a mute than a person speaking, but telling us that he knew what he was saying and there was part of a strategy, and that when the war finished, they positioned themselves to, of course, feed the world with fertilizer. Let's examine that. Let us examine that. We already put aside the whole question of the dollar a barrel nonsense. All you have to do was to buy as much as possible, have your oil refinery waiting there, and we making money like peas. But no, he wants us to think along their reality, their alternate reality that has no basis in the real reality, the reality that we know. But then he tells us, of course, that they are going to, when they get the gas, they will, of course, be able to produce as much fertilizer as possible. He forget one thing. Like the ostrich leaving your backside outside. Forget one thing. Point Lisa's is emptying. 11 companies left. 11 companies left. That is supposed to produce those fertilizers. So we know is anything to sound good. Any port for a storm. As they engage, of course, in what? In a kind of illogical call square peg and round hole talk. Square peg and round hole talk is the first set of people I know that have square peg and round hole illogic. That is the level of dotishness that we have at the helm of our affairs. Yeah, that is what we have. So he claimed that, but forget that Point Lisa's emptying. So who will produce the fertilizer that he talking about if you're getting gas? I didn't mention yet and cannot answer the question if, of course, which is most likely, Maduro continues, of course, on his course to try to take over the Essequibo part of Guyana, and the Americans, the Americans waiting. What is going to happen with any gas deal at all? A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you.
First time caller to your show, Mr. Lennox.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mr. Lennox.
Yes.
On this topic you're on the gas deal.
Yes.
This topic you're on now, Stuart Young and Rowley and Royal Dutch Shell president from Denmark. When he was flying plane like a largeness, he was when he said, this is audio statement, when he said that he will feed the world with fertilizer, it is true. Because what he did and what he didn't expect is that the Americans would have put a vice grip on Maduro and hold on the gas and oil in Venezuela. Because the Dragon deal, he was banking on everything to get the Dragon deal, and he tried to run all the Point Lisa's people to sell, right? To get them to sell or to give a share to Shell. So Shell would have been the main provider for gas and everything. So that plant come and blow up in the face, just like that one. It blew up, right? And you see, they was fighting now to get like one energy up and running so that the natural gas would have go through there, right? And had it refined, and they would have enriched themselves. And I am taking responsibility for my statement tonight to tell Stuart Young that he and Rowley were thieving the wealth of this country in private entities. And they would have done the financing through the merchant bank for the Dragon deal gas line. But greedy Maduro tell them no way. And he put a spoke in the wheel. So Rowley now, the cap in hand. That is why he will never say he against or he for Maduro. Because he know he make it bad with His Excellency Hafez Ali when he was in Trinidad in the summit and the meeting. And he turned back against him and tell him there is nobody. And the statement he made with Granger back in Guyana when they lost the election. So now he's like a vagrant and like a nobody. You know, the little boy says we should fly wolf, and they come now. Yeah. You know, all already will this. So they are fighting now to put all these taxes on we, with the electricity, property tax, and the high rate of electricity and water, so that we will fund our economy. So the money what we get in will go back to taxes to give you goods and services while it's for the energy sector. Mr. Lennox, I like your program.
Thank you very much, my friend. And of course, you made a very salient contribution in terms of another dimension to this entire thing, and that is, of course, the Naikwan, what I consider to be conspirators, theft, hoax on the population, to thief, a bunch of kleptocrats. A pleasant good night. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night.
Good night, Good night, Nicholas. Good night. Lennox, I just want to jog people's memory of how they select the president, Ms. Kangaloo, right?
Yeah.
Remember the president and administration was refusing and didn't want to go other direction of accepting somebody else to be president because they know that will have to play an important role. Not play an important role, they know why they put her there. Right? You see how this thing going in her hands? She have a role to play. Right? And the country must not let this bypass as easy like that. It's time to put all hands on deck and stand up for Trinidad and Tobago. Enough is enough. This country, I don't know people who seen this, this is the direction this country is going, and everybody that's in the comfort zone. Now this is serious time though.
Yes.
This is serious time. It's a playbook and it's easy to read.
Of course.
It's very, very easy to read. Doctor listening.
Yes, man. And that is why I often say a rookie from the police academy could easily, of course, investigate and get the evidence and, of course, make them culpable and convict them for the dishonesty and the criminal conduct, offending several criminal codes in the country twice during that 8 years so far that they would have had. But the closer they get to 2025, it's more infringement of the criminal law, and they agree they have to find money now to, of course, defend themselves. They had the state money again to defend themselves, so they will try to hoard now and so dig a deeper hole for themselves. A bunch of miscreants, a bunch of incompetence, a bunch of nincompoop, a bunch of individuals who clearly have lost their way, and we must bring them back on train, but in a jail cell. In a jail cell. There are plenty still there. Jail cell for them. Yes, indeed. Of course, don't forget, of course, the people, we have our Christmas hamper and, of course, our Christmas toys for trying to put some cheer and smile on young people, children in particular. As you know, Christmas is a time for giving and sharing, but it is merely the children because of the Christ child that was or is being celebrated, having been born on around this time. According to tradition, of course, I will take what I consider to be the liberty to be traditional and to, of course, go with the flow, so to speak, and the explanation as to why Christmas is Christmas. But, of course, there are a lot of other components to that issue that we cannot discuss tonight, but certainly we will, because when we get into the Christmas spirit, yes, we're going on until Christmas night in order to make certain that we stay on the straight and narrow, and that we, of course, recognize that Trinidad and Tobago, as the last caller said, is in dire straits, and we have a duty and responsibility to not only exculpate, not only to redeem, not only to salvage, not only to rescue, but to make sure that Trinidad and Tobago sails into a safe port. If only for our children and our children's children. We have a duty and responsibility. So as I was saying, the bunch of hogwash that this man and Rowley speaks, claiming that somehow, with respect to Rowley and all the money that he brings in because he's there, you know, the reserves moved from 10 billion US when Kamala was there and left to about, they say 6, but I say 4 billion. But he bringing money since he day, boasting about himself like the blasted ostrich, bury your head in the sand and your backside outside. Them fellas, stupidity was the devil, or would make you a devil, them fellas would have been double devils. First, they're stupid. You are saying that your presence brought in all kinds of resources to the country, and the country, of course, somehow for him is better off. But at one time, when he was faced with the question whether the present scenario of Trinidad and Tobago under Dr. Rowley and they, are we better off today than we were under Kamala Prasad Bisasa? You know that bald-headed nincompoop. You know what he said? He said you had to be a fool. You know what I say? In his usual bravado, and as usual, of course, dogmatic, and as usual, hyperbolic, and of course, with the appropriate body language. You know, they love to, of course, pretend that they are authoritative. Well, I want to tell you, Rowley ended up saying, just as how he said that he losing the war on crime, and come back today and talking hogwash. Well, then when the question was posed whether you're better off today with Rowley than if you were with Kamala, you know, he turned and said that milk and honey was flowing under Kamala, and you had to be a fool not to be better off. I tell you, these fellas are duplicitous, they are bipolar, they are schizophrenic. They are simply toxic and awful. Yes, people, I think we have, of course, examined those preliminary discourse and those persons who would have, of course, make some presentation from which, of course, laying the foundation so that we could, of course, lay a superstructure on. I think we can say that we have done a good job so far in terms of raising the issue, you, the callers, and, of course, getting some more perspective from here on the ground report with the host. And then, of course, we can now look at, of course, Lynch's statement and the concern, and I'm sure that many of you will share the sentiments that the chairman of that commission of inquiry expressed, particularly that of, oh gosh, it's $15 million to spend, not a cent for the families of the victim, by, and Rowley and them playing that falling on deaf ears. Let's hear what Lynch had to say. Yes, indeed. Oh, we have another call. Yeah, let me just get that call before we go to Lynch. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Why am I not getting this thing? Oh yeah, just so let me see if I get it. Let me see if I get it here. Yes, a minute. All right, good. Let me see. Are you hearing me? All right, okay. I lost that one. Okay, let's go straight to Lynch and hear what he has to say.
This was no act of God or mere unlucky accident. All the money that has been expended on the process so far, much more is almost certain to be spent before the families will see a single dime or dollar in compensation. It will not sit well with everybody. There may be those who will be disappointed. There may be those who will be outraged. And there may be those who will wish to challenge it. All they can do is to give it to everybody or nobody.
On February 25th, 2022, divers Rishi Nagisa, Kazim Ali Jr., Faisal Kurban, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Boutram were doing maintenance work on a 30-inch underwater pipeline at Paria's Berth 6 when they were suddenly sucked into the pipeline. Only Boutram survived. The Commission of Inquiry, he said, cost a total of $15.5 million.
15.5 million people. Commission of inquiry cost 15.5 million. 15.5 million people.
This was no act of God or mere unlucky accident. All the money that has been expended on the process so far, much more is almost certain to be spent before the families will see a single dime or dollar in compensation. It will not sit well with everybody. There may be those who will be disappointed. There may be those who will be outraged. And there may be those who will wish to challenge it. All they can do is to give it to everybody or nobody.
On February 25th, 2022, divers Rishi Nagisa, Kazim Ali Jr., Faisal Kurban, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Boutram were doing maintenance work on a 30-inch underwater pipeline at Paria's Goodwill. The Commission of Inquiry, he said, cost a total of $15.5 million. And
this was no act of God or mere unlucky accident.
Imagine that the chairman said no act of God or mere simple accident. The inference is clear. Human involvement, I wouldn't even say error. Because some of the information that would have been gleaned or coming out of the Commission of Inquiry by some of the witnesses is harrowing. You want to believe where the hell these fellas get a qualification from to get, of course, those high-paying jobs in an industry that pays high because of its nature. It's oil and gas, is black gold. And you have, of course, a fellow who seemed unable to string a couple sentences together as chairman, but playing golf with Rowley. And therefore, because it's Rowley friend, and once you have a friend, he, Noel Garcia, and others, bet your bottom dollar is skullduggery there on. Because everywhere Rowley went was some kind of bubble. They put him, of course, in national quarries. He started off there. Bubble. They put him in Ministry of Planning. Bubble. They put him in agriculture. Well, I haven't heard anything coming out of that. But I would, if you search deep enough, you will know it's bubble. They put him in the Ministry of Housing. It's bubble. And don't tell me I know what I'm talking about, you know. Because I have the blasted documents that I sent for to Freedom of Information. They try, of course, to try to doctor it. When I asked, which was the minister, who was the minister that was in office at the time when the Green Veil, you remember that housing scheme that went underwater? That people had to be marooned on the rooftop. They had to go on the rooftop to, of course, escape the flood that they could touch because the flood reached at the level of their ceilings. Remember that? But it was Rowley. Who was the minister at the time? Everywhere he went to some kind of bubble. And you will understand why he was so adamant and so pensive and at the same time so aggressive with extreme bellicose language and of course a level of aggression that at one time we thought that the man was serious about being a corruption buster. That time it was about trying to displace Calderhat, trying of course to displace his former boss Manning in order for he to be the king criminal, the king conman, the king mafia, the king corruption. You talk about power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You talk about that. Rowley is the epitome. He is the representation of that. He is the quintessential corrupt individual. And in a democracy, he vexed he can't get to people like me. But let him wait. Wait, Rowley. Wait. I see you respond to my pre-action protocol letter yet. I bet you make you respond. Watch and see. It's just a matter of time. But the fact of the matter is that everywhere he went, and anybody he associates with, in this case, of course, the chairman of Paria, what? What's his name? Yes, you're right. Connected to who? Yes, and he's a judge. All of them believe that somehow they could hitch the wagon to this corrupt entity called the PNM, and that they can exist in perpetuity without having to account for the larceny of our resources. I hear better cook than them crow and end up by Kentucky. You know what I say? I say I hear better cook than Rowley and them crow and end up by Kentucky. Yeah. So it's just a matter of time. But let us, of course, examine critically what the chairman of the inquiry said. He says it's not no accident, it's not no act of God, and therefore somebody must pay. But of course, he went on to put in a plea for the bereaved family who got nothing, $15 million paid for that, even though, of course, it was small change compared to other commissions of inquiry. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter for those people. $1 million would have been a fortune for them. Nothing.
All the money that has been expended on the process so far, much more is almost certain to be spent before the families will see a single dime or dollar in compensation. It will not sit well with everybody. There may be those who will be disappointed. There may be those who will be outraged. And there may be those who will wish to challenge it. All they can do is to give it to everybody or nobody.
On February 25th, 2022, divers Rishi Nagisa, Kazim Ali Jr., Faisal Kurban, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Buttram were doing maintenance work on a 30-inch underwater pipeline at Paria's Berth 6 when they were suddenly sucked into the pipeline. Only Buttram survived. The Commission of Inquiry, he said, cost a total of $15.5 million.
This was no act of God or mere unlucky accident. All the money that has been expended on the process so far.
Yes, indeed. And let me show you at this time how devious and how
Section 44A
contemptuous and how conspiratous and how criminalistic and how nepotistic and how these fellas coalesce, they conspire, they identify each other as a member of a criminal enterprise spawned by something called the PNM, and go into various institutions in the country to promote and to protect that evil that is the PNM. And they will pretend like hell, and they will protest like hell that they are not what we know them to be. Yeah. Before we go further, let me define for you what a group is. A group, obviously, we are talking sociology here. Sociology is about functioning in a group, how people live in a group. It is not like, let's say, psychology where you have to examine the individual. But sociology is about living in groups. And whether, of course, you look at different aspects of how over the ages human beings live in groups through anthropology, it is called. But the fact of the matter is that a group has been identified with three characteristics of a group. One, Because I want you to understand what Rowley and they are as a group. They identify each other as a member. So the PNM at the upper echelons in particular, because they have a striation, they have a hierarchy. The lower of them are to grovel and to, of course, serve the rest of them. And they can distance themselves from that. But the rank and file know when time comes for elections, they have to go and vote for those persons at the top there who eating ham, lamb, and jam. So they identify each other as member. That is one of the characteristics of a group. The second characteristic is that they have a shared value. They have a shared way of and belief of doing things. The shared value. And the shared value, I want to say with respect to the PNM as a grouping, all of them are thieves. That's the shared value. They go into government to fatten their pockets and to enrich themselves and to fraternize with the hoi polloi. I should say the hoi polloi, but they will hoi polloi, meaning that they will fraternize with the shakers and movers or the captains of industry and academia and other aspects of the society. They want to be there to do that, even though they may be nincompoops and they cannot do I should say seventh standard, but certainly fifth standard work. They can't even pass a C exam. But they will do that because they have a shared value. And the third is they have regular interaction. So when they have the family day, as they disrespect, of course, other people's religion, etc., that is part and parcel of the socialization that they create in order to maintain the value that they have. And that is to say, everybody must be a blasted thief or find ways to thief. And they must, of course, have regular interaction, obviously. And they must identify each other as a member. So Gary Griffith, for example, was excommunicated because he refused to be part and parcel of a group of people who see government to only to deplete the treasury of the country. And therefore he said no, even though he was, of course, Commissioner of Police and had probably the best opportunity in a time when the PNM is in government to, of course, jail the tail. But I know that there will be other times because as the old people would say, one day Kongote, and the longest rope has an end. The longest rope has an end. And we know too that when dogs suck an egg, they cannot easily deviate. But I want to show you how they promote mediocrity and they put their various people in various institutions to disrupt, particularly when another government or party is in office. Yeah. In this case, of course, we talk about Seals. Yeah, Michael Seals. The man who was at the helm, at the upper echelons of the Police Welfare Association. Yes. And who was responsible, by and large, in fact, he was charged for sedition. Because he incited police officers to engage in a day of what? Total policing, he said. And he said to pursue that course of action, he said that Kamala and them don't want to pay the police officers because they want to create problems in order to stay in office. That time, he wanted to create conditions for wicked and evil, those fake emails, and those, of course, storming a teacup, Rishmi, and of course, Section 34. Understand that? That is the objective of this crop of individuals, So seals was an implantation to achieve the objective of getting them into office. But I want to know who will stop the people when they get out there at maximum in 2025 and vote the tail out. And let me tell you this, there is nothing sacrosanct about them. It's a bunch of, as I said, criminals in high office. Don't tell me that Tobago didn't happen. Don't tell me that they're wallowing in their misery and their well-deserving defeat. The PNM I'm talking about, trying, of course, all kinds of shenanigans and all kinds of comeback scenarios and formulas in order, of course, to polish themselves and to divest themselves of the indelible, the permanent stain that they have as being unfit for government and public office. They are simply kleptocrats. They are sticky fingers. But will deflect and try to deflect. But of course, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, solid like a rock and as good as gold. People are now seeing the goodness and the potency and the intellectual prowess and the policy realities that made the People's Partnership and Kamala Persad-Bissessar even to today well loved and yearned for. I'm talking about between 2010 and 2015. Between 2010 and 2015. Can't get away from that. What we know is that what the PNM would have done is put a set of dunderheads and mediocres to, of course, try to protect that which cannot be protected because they're criminal enterprise. But we must be abreast, we must be alert, we must be conscious, we must, of course, recognize them for who they are. And he cannot go, Seals cannot go away. I believe he could go in the Senate in recent times as a temp or on notice. No. He orchestrated the day of policing only to undermine the then government of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC.
Now, therefore,
that's what he did. Listen to him.
President is aforesaid in exercise of the power invested in me by Section 44(1)(a) and Section 44(a) of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister temporarily, with effect from the 28th of November 2023 and continuing during the absence from Trinidad.
And just in case you get difficulty in seeing him, let me bring him closer to you. Look him there. That betrayer of the people and the office that he held. Yeah, Michael Seals, being sworn in as a temporary senator. We must expose all of them. Just as we did with Helen Drayton, just as we did, of course, with Father Harvey, just as we did with, of course, Justice Ventor, just as how we did with Coco and all of those. What he called, and he agreed, when I called him, he Coco, I call him a PNM lick bottom. He said yes, he Coco, the very song that he sang. Lick bottom because he's driving some kind of CPAP vehicle and feel that he bigger than everybody. Look him there. That fella, a PNM operative inside of the police. So do not for one moment believe that Earl Christopher is, of course, pure and pristine and that you will give her a chance. No, there shall be no chance taken. This is not about wagering with our future and our children and our country. This is about a very important stance in order, of course, to salvage and to prevent the albatross that is Rowley and the PNM from, of course, ever again coming back into office, they must be relegated to the... They must be. They must be relegated to the dustbin of political history in this country. Mover and a shaker and a persuader of public opinion. She says as an independent senator in 2015 and asked the government as an independent senator, asked cabal and them to call elections. That is a boldface there. And of course, look at the DPP. We know we have to look at those in the public service commission. We know we have to look at those that pretended to be independent, but really and truly serving the devil. Of course, Rowley and the PNM.
President is aforesaid.
Look at me. That's the fella.
Me by section 44(1)(a) and section 44(a) of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, acting in accordance with the advice
Who would have
of the
thought
Prime Minister
that fellow would have been a temporary senator, or indeed he contested the Tobago seat for the PNM in 2020? That fella.
With effect from the 28th of November 2023.
All of them betrayers, perfidious, and we must resist, and we must identify, and we must tell them, get the hence, you collective of Satans. Yes, indeed. So, don't let them smile. Every smile with them is an opportunity to kill us. To kill us. Somebody called me today and talked about senior citizens leaving the country. Imagine a 17-year-old. One would expect it that a 17-year-old would want to leave the country for a better place. But imagine a 17-year-old in the twilight of her existence. Her biologically and them believe is par for the course. And they have the audacity and the temerity and the gall and the effrontery to tell us that no, that is no big thing. You will lose some and you will gain some. You heard Rowley? Oh, he fed up of people complaining about crime and criminality. Give he a break. Get the hell out of office. That's what you have to do. Nobody wants to give you a break if you are in office. Get the hell out and no one studies you. No one studies you. And the sycophants and them who telling me do not, of course, talk so tough about these fellas and them. They are no blasted good. And they must be jettisoned out of office as expeditiously and as speedily and with a high degree of alacrity out of the office that they hold. Yes, indeed. So that was important, of course, to raise that with you. And of course, we had Short Young confessing yesterday, and we're going to do it again tonight. As to Delcy Rodriguez, and of course, why she was here. She wasn't here for no damn COVID. She was here to pursue their nefarious agenda against Trinidad and Tobago. And we don't know what she brought on that plane. Some say it's gold bars. But what we know is that a shipment left Paria under sanction, and the transpondents were cut off, and Figura, and of course, the Parity, and people like that connected to Maduro and PDVSA became the height, as we saw.
President is aforesaid.
Yes, indeed.
This OFAC license that this motion is about, when the United States puts sanctions, the only people who can give permission for you to operate without you attracting sanctions, and the truth is there are two categories of sanctions. There's the first level and the second level, secondary. It is the Americans and American citizens, American companies who attract the sanctions at the first level. We are at the second level. So we don't easily attract those, but it is a huge risk and no one will do business whilst that is taking place. I hear a lot of talk about the amount of trips that are made to the United States and to Venezuela. It is for a singular purpose. The only purpose of those trips is that we were always advocating on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago for a future for Trinidad and Tobago. And thankfully, Thankfully, it has met with a great measure of success. You will recall the Prime Minister in one of his transparent press conferences not too long ago saying that it is as though you are pushing a boulder up a...
I want you to understand the level of buffoonery and madness that these fellas are capable of evoking within themselves, of course, and believing that somehow they are resonating with the people. I want you... Listen to the word transparent press conference. Come on, transparent press conference. That in itself is a statement to attract, of course, publicity. You ever say, to say it is a transparent press conference is to sell the illusion that somehow they... Let's go straight to the lines. Let's go straight to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. No problem, man. No problem. Go ahead.
That idiot behind you. You know, he does sound like, you know, them comedian and them who talk. They just talk high and talk. He does remind me of Spangalang, and I think Spangalang better.
By far, it's a set of buffoons this man put together.
All that singular talk where he say he going to Venezuela. What we read for that up to now?
The man say 8 times he went so and 10 times he went so.
Get out of all those things. He talk about he goes. But what we get out of it?
Nobody can answer me up to know what we get out of it.
Not even them. All they give us is hogwash and Nancy's story that they bring back money, but our treasury is being depleted, but they bring back money.
Nobody can tell me up to know. All people that leave this country are literally in the twilight zone when them should have been relaxing in this country.
Of course.
You understand?
Yeah.
As I
yes, it was you.
I don't know what good take for them for let's make a change. And that policeman a minute ago he was watching.
Yeah.
He should be held for treason.
Of course. Big stinking PNM and riding influence inside of the police service, and then come out and contesting elections and being PNM senator. I have no respect for them. They have no morals. They have no ethics. They have no decency or principle. And the only people to protect them so it's because they have a bird of feather flocking together is Rowley, the arch criminal. Arch criminal.
Well, we know the media does hide for them. So when they show in news, we just only see people who talking about the government good, or sometimes they're squeezing 1 or 2 people to make it look good now.
Yeah. You see, and they will use that. We know all the tricks. We know all the shenanigans. We know all of their slipshots and the deviatory. We will disfigure all of them. All.
Are we waiting for the third material of Venezuela? Yeah. Are we waiting for the third of December to hear about Venezuela to see Venezuelan jets go land here?
Yes.
To refuel.
Yes. Let's see.
Because I don't know all who has been lined up by the embassy when I'm going on with my car. Only I don't know when the plane taken off with the whole on the tire thing like all people in Afghanistan thing do. You understand?
Yeah, I hear you, my friend. Yeah, the man flexing the muscle causing because Russia and a what? Have a what?
Christmas drive,
Yes, we have a hamper drive. Yeah, hamper, toys, and back to school as well at the same time. We had to face the fact that those young people chances
where
will
does
improve
go?
with school. It'll go east-west corridor, of course, east-west corridor. Specifically, from Diego Martin, go right up. Yeah, up the hills, yeah, down the hill, etc. Yeah, all over. It doesn't mean easy. Christmas morning, I delivering hamper to people or candy. All right, my friend. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay then. Yes, indeed. But let's go quickly because I see that is after 10 already. Boy, time does just fly here. I don't know why. Because we started on time, I think, or relatively. By the time this buffoon finishes, we will, of course, it will be time to leave. So, but I would prefer that he take 2 steps to the rear and get the hell out of here and do like Evel Knievel and leave. That is the level of buffoon we have to, of course, countenance with pain and ache and agony and with excruciating visual pain, excruciating visual pain to watch them fellas and them fellas to hear them talk cacophonous babblings.
Hill. Fortunately, a few days later, a few weeks later, the end of September, we got the license we got the agreement from Venezuela. You would recall, and I'm reminding the population that every step of the way, as we make progress, and I'll give a quick history here, I am there to provide guidance. I am there because I am the government representative who negotiates with the governments. So when, as I will tell you in a short while, I made 8 trips to the United States last year, several of them with the Prime Minister, it was pursuing this business. So when I sit in the Department of State or the Department of Energy or the Department of Agriculture, which was part of our strategy, recognizing that we're a huge producer of ammonia that is needed in the world post the Russia-Ukraine crisis and war, that is the strategy we're implementing on behalf.
That fellow's so stupid. Why would you use the Ukraine and Russia post after the war? They're so stupid because the tired are capitalizing and abusing COVID or what? One would have expected that you'll say COVID because, of course, the food chain and of course, the economic viability and the smoothing of course, travel as well as, of course, shipping and all of that would have been affected negatively because of COVID. He gone to Ukraine. I tell you, who the gods wish to destroy, they first send them mad. You know what I say? I say, those who the gods wish to destroy, they first send them mad. So they stop beating COVID now. He going to the post Ukraine, Russian war. He prepared for that. And you would have heard him saying he prepared since 2017. So that is why I say that they're so stupid. They will believe that them caused the war. And those things that are happening globally is because of probably Dr. Rowley went to Likoto. The way you want me to say, that is the level of dotishness that we have purporting to be and parading in the highest executive offices in the country as minister and prime minister, and we can go on and on. Oh, what a tragedy. Oh, what a travesty. Oh, what a bizarre. It is totally incomprehensible as it is reprehensible. Yes, indeed. Incomprehensible as it is reprehensible that whole asses like these will be in office. He had the decency and the common sense to say, well, a lot of people are going to believe, well, you're coming out of COVID. COVID was just about a year ago or so. So, all right, fine. We could talk that talk because people, of course, was not working and so on, and therefore productivity has to be ramped up, and of course, people have to start, of course, making money, and of course, the economy has to churn and so on. The man come with post Ukraine-Russian war, he preparing pointless, and worse yet, pointless emptying of the very companies that he is depending on post to come, Russia, Ukraine, ceasefire, war finish. I mean, they don't know what to get off. They don't know that they are fools, that they are asses, that they are simply not capable of carrying what is expected of them for and on behalf of the country. And worse yet, they are embarrassing us at every opportunity, including Rowley. And listen to him boast about the nonsense that he is doing and saying.
For the people of Trinidad and Tobago, this is not Vikivi, this is not wake up anymore. And we pursued that, and I am sitting as a representative of the government, a representative of you, the people, saying Trinidad and Tobago has something the rest of the world doesn't have. And I said it on international TV as well. At the time, people didn't understand.
Yes,
Trinidad and Tobago has immediate capacity to produce LNG, ammonia, urea, necessary, and methanol. And we're next to proven reserves, 17 kilometers of pipeline away in Venezuela. And that is what picked up traction. So when Europe and other countries need LNG and ammonia, we have an immediate solution, not today for today, but we will fill a big global void in the need for LNG, ammonia, urea, UAN. If we get access to proven reserves of gas, that is 17 kilometers of pipeline, that can be done in a very short time frame in the scheme of things. So
notice, not immediately, but it could be done in a very short space of time in the scheme of things. Listen to the semantics, believing that they're bright. And you know, too, he was responding and has not responded up to now as to the reality that is occurring between Venezuela and Guyana right now, and whether or not all what he's saying there, as was the case when they came back from Venezuela, danced the samba, and come back and say it's historic. What he says historic. Nobody else never did it. But I want to tell him, nobody else never closed down Petro either. Nobody was never so stupid to keep the oil refinery mothball. Nobody was so stupid to entertain a person like Delcy Rodriguez, and of course people from PDVSA, and then saying that you maintain your position as far as non-interference and non-involvement in other countries' business. But they come in here. You invite them here, knowing full well that the Americans will be peeved. But you ain't care, because you have an obligation to represent the people in the best way, and therefore that is treason. That is what you were elected for. Questionable as those elections were. Questionable. But the fact is that you have betrayed that trust. You have not acted in the best interest of the people. You have not, of course, sought or seek the public's interests. If anything else, you're seeking your own interests because your brother have a bank. You recuse yourself umpteen times. Nikon, of course, has some members of government as a CEO and shareholders. The network allow the owner of Nikon, the man who spearhead the whole initiative, Gill, to get $100 million US from Republic Bank, but no way of being able to pay it back. And when Rowley and them organized that and the project failed, he then distanced himself and still tell us that he's saving us money. He's still saying that as if we are compound fools, or they see in us that which is in them. But I want to tell them, those buffoons, The day of reckoning is soon. 2025 will come.
You will recall when I went on CNN International with Richard Quest, that was the message. At the time, it was not understood, but it was part of the strategy, and it was understood where it needed to be, because we ended up with an OFAC license that no one else has. And that is part of the delivery from the very careful strategy for Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, let me tell you something. That OFAC license is one consequential of the opportunistic nature of this government. It was an opportunity window that was created because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. They cut off the pipeline, so the Americans reviewed the position. If I was them, they're seeking their own interests and the interests of their European brothers and sisters across there in Europe. And they know Venezuela has some reserves. And in order to appease, of course, the CARICOM, who clearly, Rowley playing, of course, the bully pulpit advocate, the pushing to talk for reparations and all of that kind of nonsense. So the pushing he prepared to be that, and damaging Trinidad and Tobago in the process. Whilst, of course, these smaller islands smarter than us, they maintain their integrity and their standing in world affairs and CARICOM affairs, so much so. And he talking about change of administration. This fella, he know nothing. Rowley was chairman of CARICOM. Yeah, I say Rowley was chairman of CARICOM. And the former president, Pajamas, call him, are talking about, of course, former president, call him, and when time to invite leaders to come to his home in Miami. Yeah, talk about Trump. Yes, Trump are talking about. Rowley was never on the list, was never invited. And when Trump got the opportunity to invite CARICOM leaders, they invite small, they invite Antigua. Well, of course, they invite the Prime Minister of Jamaica, but not Rowley. And when Rowley get rebuffed like that, according to Manning, he like a dog without a bone, but sucking eggs so much that he can't stop. And like a mongrel, or in Lavatil we call them shithongs. Shithongs. Running behind every vehicle you see in the road. So he ended up saying, Trinidad and Tobago's policy cannot be, foreign policy cannot be dictated by a man inviting you home by he. That backside. But today, he running up and down in America now because the situation has changed. That opportunistic vulture, that opportunistic kobo, political and otherwise. Yeah. Political kobo. Political kobo. And just in case, as Stuart Young trying to make us believe change in administration, and that, of course, and therefore Trump was hostile to them. Trump was hostile to them because they were on the wrong side of Trinidad and Tobago's interests. Yeah, they supported Maduro implicitly. We're talking about Guaido. This is about diplomacy. And you must recognize, just in case Guaido becomes a player, you want to know that you did not burn your bridge. They don't understand that. They have tunnel vision. And like a mad bull in a China shop, they just bend the head and they go in. And they don't care what they mash up. That is them. and say they're on principle. On principle, my foot. It is on principle. And you failed. And why I'm saying that it is not about who regime like who, because we know that Rowley and they did enough for Trump and them to hate them. The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, went to Guyana and fly past Trinidad like a full boss. But when Rowley was about to leave office and the new chairman of CARICOM was to come in, I'm talking about the one Gaston Brown from Antigua, Barbuda. Guess what? Biden wanted to talk to Forte, including himself. Maybe they know about the elections here. Forte were leaders representing different regions to talk about climate change and other matters incidental there too. And guess what? Rowley was still the chairman of CARICOM. And Biden bypassed and invited Gaston Brown. What are you telling me about? They feel people stupid. But let us go quickly to the end of tonight's...
You will recall in 2016 we negotiated that first memorandum of understanding. Very quickly in 2018 we had a commercial term sheet. We had agreed with Venezuela the price of gas, the allocation of gas, and that gas was set to come to Trinidad and Tobago by 2020.
Listen to the data. The data, 17 by 2020. Listen, yet still he talking Ukraine and Russian war and the secession thereof to start to proliferate the world with fertilizer from Point Lisas, a place where, because of the way how they negotiated gas, they closed down almost 11, well, not almost, 11 and counting companies to produce the same fertilizer. But he talking that kind of hogwash. They gone mad.
The next thing that happened, unfortunately, in the world of geopolitics, as small as we are caught between Venezuela and the United States. Sanctions came under a certain US administration that shut that down, could not pursue the deal because the operators, Shell, would go nowhere near it because of fear of sanctions. We did not give up. We very quietly came up with a strategy that we implemented as soon as possible, a change of administration in the United States, all of the time maintaining our relationship with Venezuela. When we were in the middle of COVID and our borders were closed, and the vice president...
Before we go by Delcy, I have to comment here, I have to pause. Is he saying that a new government come in, Biden and them, that sanction has been lifted? Is he saying that? Is he saying that there would have been better negotiators under a Biden administration as opposed to, of course, Biden's predecessor? They are talking about Trump, yes. Is he saying that? That's what I'm hearing? That's what I have to infer? But I want to tell you this. I want to tell you something, you buffoon. It was as a consequence of your conduct with respect, of course, to Maduro and your attitude, and the fact is that your votes at the OAS and the Lima Congress, if you want to call it that, or the meeting that caused that. That's why Trump did not invite Rowley to his home in Miami. But other leaders did. So what are you telling me about? How come other leaders could have gotten to go but not Rowley? Because you acted against the interests of Trinidad and Tobago in a situation where our biggest trading partner, the United States, arguably the most powerful country in the world, not just in the region, we depend on them for even our border security, and you want to ignore them? For Maduro, and the package include Russia, Cuba, and Iran, and then talking about a change in government. But the change in government didn't bring any benefits to us either. Rowley wasn't invited to the environmental conference as a leader in the region. It was Gaston Brown, a small islander. And let me disabuse you one time. You're damn fool if you can't understand you're in the position and you can't use it. Well, let me tell you something. The Americans ease sanction. They withdraw it all the time. They ease it. And that was only because their European partners were suddenly cut off from about nearly 40% of their gas supply from that pipeline that was coming from Russia. That is why he really feel that he had the skill to, of course, manipulate. They were trying to tell us that he had the skill, he and Rowley, the skill to make America see their way. I'm into one clout. Thank God that the same war that he saw in 2017 and the gas will come in 2020, both of which are totally out and was before the war even started. I mean, this fella's mad. He is trying to tell us that they were able to influence the Biden administration to give them a license, not 1, 2. Biden them only seeing about themselves. And if you could get the gas and supply the world, whether directly or indirectly, whether as a feedstock or as a fuel, it's American interest Biden is seeking, not yours. You didn't influence nothing. You by happenstance, by serendipity, by chance, my boy. And all it's so sour, all it's so close. You know, Maduro end up now fighting for part of Guyana. And the possibility exists that, and a question that has not been answered yet, he can't answer it, he don't want to face it. So he was sour with sanction, and he's sour with a potential war that America will have to respond if they try to go into, of course, Guyana. And what will happen? Sanction again. But he don't want to accept that. But he suddenly was able to make America mind turn around. You have to be a backside boy. You have to be. You're lucky I'm not on Prince Street, you know. And I tell you as it is, you know. Come on Prince Street now, you, Rowley, and all you. Come on Prince Street. I'm going to tell all you, mother make all you.
Of Venezuela, who remains the vice president today, Delcy Rodriguez, wrote to us diplomatically and said, I would like to come to Trinidad and Tobago, and I, as the Minister of National Security, on the advice of the Prime Minister, allowed the Vice President of Venezuela to come to Trinidad and Tobago.
I thought Rowley say that he didn't know nothing about it. So you get advice from Rowley to invite Delcy Rodriguez to come or accept their invitation. It could be the other way around. It's quite possible, but let me take it for what he say. But what we know now is that they were talking energy, because that a motion moved by, of course, the opposition Senator Wade Mark about the threat to the gas deal and circumstances associated and emanated from and therein. He now tells us that it was gas and energy talks that Delcy Rodriguez came here for. But I'm sure it's more. They have more to say.
Opposition led the charge on behalf of President Guaido, who they don't know where he is today, to say that the Prime Minister, they wrote to the United States government that Prime Minister Keith Rowley and Stuart Young should be sanctioned when we were in the middle of COVID and our borders were closed. And
yes, because we did 2 on the ground report. You sent us a pre-action protocol letter, and we sent you off nearly 50 pages, and we hear from you again since 2020. I'll bring up that in due course as well.
Vice President of Venezuela, who remains the Vice President today, Delcy Rodriguez, wrote to us diplomatically, said, I would like to come to Trinidad and Tobago, and I, as the Minister of National Security, on the advice of the Prime Minister, allowed the Vice President of Venezuela to come to Trinidad and Tobago when we were in the middle of COVID and our borders were closed. And the Vice President of Venezuela, who remains the Vice President today, Delcy Rodriguez, wrote to us diplomatically and said, I would like to come to Trinidad and Tobago, and I, as the Minister of National Security, on the advice of the Prime Minister, allowed the Vice President of Venezuela to come to Trinidad and Tobago when we were in the middle of COVID and our borders were closed. And the Vice President of Venezuela, who remains the Vice President today, Delcy Rodriguez, wrote to us diplomatically and said, I would like to come to Trinidad and Tobago, and I, as the Minister of National Security, on the advice of the Prime Minister, allowed the Vice President of Venezuela to come to Trinidad and Tobago when we were in the middle of COVID and our borders were closed. And the Vice President of Venezuela, who remains the Vice President today, Delcy Rodriguez, wrote to us diplomatically and said, I would like to come to Trinidad and Tobago, and I, as the Minister of National Security, on the advice of the Prime Minister, allowed the Vice President of Venezuela to come to Trinidad and Tobago. The opposition led the charge on behalf of President Guaido, who they don't know where he is today, to say that the Prime Minister, they wrote to the United States government that Prime Minister Keith Rowley and Stuart Young should be sanctioned. This OFAC license that this motion is about, when the United States put sanctions, only people...
I think we have exhausted our tolerance of this consummate buffoon. The man can make anybody tired ad nauseum with the nonsense and the hogwash and the illogic that they speak. People, of course, we have come to the end. Pleasant good night once again. Of course, don't forget tomorrow night. No, I will not be around, but we have a bumper program as well. Don't forget, of course, I want to remind you that we have, of course, our Christmas hampers and toy drive. And, of course, if you have a little kakada put aside for, of course, to help us with the internet and so on, we will really appreciate that as well. You could call me directly. Call my assistants, of course, the number to call, 336-6594. And, of course, the number to call my assistants, of course, will be there. You could call all now. It doesn't matter with me. 336-6594. What I see, people, is that the Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform, and that who the gods wish to destroy, they first set them mad. All of them have gone mad. Yes. Manic, depressive, psychosis, lost the sense of reality spontaneously. So yes, people, and therefore we must treat them as they are deserving to be treated. Listen to this.
Finance, big shot, friends and family. So the whole of the country wants you know to stop lying. Cause the next election is a new party we voting. Like you forget your people once you in power and you're moving evil, you had the whole place sour. And now that we discover it's 2% that they offer. This is one little thing that I want all you to remember. We fed up all your lives. You could do much better. Gas prices going up too high. The cost of living is getting harder. Guys, let me put in my copyright claim. I don't own the rights of the music played, neither the melody. I'm a madman.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I mean, that is a good one. But of course, we know that the ship is sinking as well. So let us, of course, go right
from
into
the
that.
Trinidad. Location 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. SOS, SOS, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. The Trinidad, a luxury liner, sailing the Caribbean Sea with an old captain named Eric Williams. Oh yes, it's smooth and free, but sadly Eric Williams passed away. The ship hit rough water that day. Someone turned the bridge over to a captain named Chambers. Me blood crawl, things start to fall. Hold me head when I sail a fall. Captain, this ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. Oh yes, we gas tank almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship, or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa, whoa. The Trinidad with wealth that few surpassed, and in her day she sailed majestically. There were few in her class. Faithfully she fulfilled her sailor's need. Some were overpowered by greed, and so they pilfered slow. Some took by bulk and go. Now she looked dull, she's at a lull. She could barely sit on her hull. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. Oh yes, we gas tank almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship, or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa, whoa. The Trinidad.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, it's plenty pressure. We have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Since you come in power, you is a big failure. Collapse the economy and do nothing for we. What you have to show, we don't really know. What you have to show, we don't really know. Sorry Trinidad and Tobago, but Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. The crime rate is out of hand, they're shooting up we blessed land. We need more protection, it's time to take some action. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. And the PNM don't really care. Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go.